Java was able to adapt to industry very faster than any other language. And Java also has the support of Spring, Quarkus, and these make the developers' life so easy that first time you fail, you don't empathize with the employees, you don't understand like where they are struggling.
This week I was joined by Richy Great, who is the head of engineering at Ubitricity in Berlin. Now, Richy is someone who I've known for a while. He moved to Berlin as an engineer before moving down the architect route to now being the head of engineering. So, how has he done it, and why has he done it? And what can you do as an engineer or someone in a lower level position to make that jump into management? We go into all the details, how to manage downwards, as well as how to manage upwards and get the expectations of the senior board. And then we also get a little bit technical. We talk a lot about Java and also the pros and cons of other programming languages. Something that I try to keep up with as best as I can, but I know for the more technical people listening, you'll get a lot of value from that part of the conversation. Richy is a great guy, a funny guy, and someone who works hard and is absolutely passionate about what he does and the tech industry in general. I thoroughly enjoyed speaking with him, and I hope you enjoy listening to this one. So, without further ado, I'm Alex Boycey, and this is the Building Our World podcast. So, we'll get this episode started, Richy. Welcome to the show. Now, we were just saying before that you came over to Berlin back in 2018, I think it was, if my research is correct. So,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, so obviously a big difference between India and Berlin. But how did that come about? And I've spoken to tons of people who came over from India, and there was a bit of a cultural shock. So, what was that all like?
I mean, it wasn't much of a cultural shock to me. I mean, at least the weather was same at that time. It was the hottest summer, I would say. So I felt like I brought India along with me. So that's how it felt in the beginning. But thank you so much for giving this opportunity to talk about this. And yeah, so when I came to Berlin, I had a bit of cultural shock here and there, but when it comes to tech and working in the company, it's almost the same because I used to have experience working with European clients. Like I used to work with people from Belgium. I used to work with BNP Paribas Fortis. So this is actually a bank in Belgium.
Okay.
So I had very good experience working with these engineers and also managers and leaders. So I had some knowledge and intro about this before
Mhm.
jumping in.
Okay, because I speak to some, and like I think I don't know, maybe it's the companies they work for, but the work-life balance was way more hardcore back in India, and they were surprised with that when they came to Berlin. I don't know if you
That's true.
experienced that.
That's true. So that's like a sweet surprise. Yeah, I mean, it's not a shock. I would say like it was the thing that people moved to Berlin for. I mean, the thing that people would choose Europe for, at least Germany. The work life balance was really good, and the quality of life is really good. Like you're not stuck in the traffic after work like for an hour or so. So that's really good. And
Mm.
uh, and also like you don't have to stay back and work on weekends, for example. Like we used to work on weekends. I mean, that never happened since I started in Germany, so that was really good.
Mm.
I would
Why
love it
is that
to
though?
proceed like this. Yes.
Why is there that attitude to work in India? Is it because there's? I mean, I spoke to someone else. I think it was on this podcast where
Mhm.
their sort of theory was that because there is more people, there's more competition.
That's true.
That's why. Do you think there's anything in that?
Yeah, that makes the biggest difference. So the number of people available to take the work and do it if you're not doing it, so that makes
Mm.
all the difference. And it's also the mentality of the people. Like if you go outside on a Sunday in Berlin, if you go outside on a Sunday in anywhere in Germany, like you will not see any stores open. So things are closed here. So we don't work on Sundays. So
Mm.
not even grocery stores, maybe one or two stores here and there. So that's the mindset that inculcates in you, like when you're in a place like this. So if you're in India, you can still find almost everything open on a Sunday. So that's
Yeah.
how the business operates in India. So you can do anything, any day, anytime.
Mm. Do you think that enlists that sort of hardcore culture? Because isn't like the top 20 CEOs of like all the tech companies now originally from India?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So do you think that there's that link between sort of if you need to get ahead in India, you need to work harder than say if you needed to get ahead in England or Germany because of the amount of people?
I think it's because like they take more responsibility than the others, and
Mm,
they don't care about like how the pressure or the responsibility will have an impact on their personal life.
mm,
So I think Indians have this mentality, like this attitude that towards the work, like they don't care how much it can intrude in your personal life, how it can impact your mental health, for example.
yeah.
So maybe they're underestimating this whole stuff, and we don't
Mm,
care about that, I think so. So that's the attitude, like even when you're driving in India, like you have to have this attitude of like a fearless attitude, I would say, like unless you cannot step on the road with a car, it's almost like impossible to blend in.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, I mean, I've worked with loads of engineers from India, and they're really good. The amount of talent that comes out, especially the tech talent. I saw you went to Anna University as well.
That's true,
Is
that's
that how you
true.
pronounce it? Anna
Anna.
University? Yeah.
Anna, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so it's a weird thing when you're a tech recruiter and you work with people globally. You almost have this sense of universities around the world
Hmm.
and which ones are good. And anytime I get a CV and I see Anna University on there, I know they're going to be decent. There's some great universities and so many great engineers that come from India over to Berlin. What was the relocation process like? Because I know there's many listening that might be thinking of a move to Germany.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a piece of cake. I mean,
Mm,
I applied from jobs directly from India, so it was close to, I would say, like more than 100 applications throughout, and then getting a lot of rejections out there. So if someone is watching this and trying to relocate to Germany, my advice is to just keep on trying,
mm,
because there are some companies who are willing to provide a relocation support and visa and processing and everything. So you might have to wait till you hit the right thing. So it's just not you. So it has to be the perfect timing in the company. And
mm,
then I got an opportunity with Smava. So Smava is actually a fintech company in Berlin, and yeah, so that's how I moved into Berlin. So at that time, I had like two offers: one to move with Cambridge, and other one to Berlin. And I chose Berlin. I mean, because of the cost of living, I would say,
mm,
and the
mm,
tech scene, obviously, like the startup scene, because it's really a ground of development for all the startups. And then if if I plan to move forward with another company, I can find more companies in Berlin than any other place. So yes.
mm. Absolutely. And what I will say as well to anyone listening out there who's thinking of a move to Germany, there are some amazing relocation agencies that will help you with your visa, with finding accommodation, which is the hardest bit. And I'm
Yeah.
hearing at the moment that if you're looking for an apartment in Berlin now, like it's getting a bit. It was always been crazy, but it's getting a bit ridiculous now. Like queues out the street for one viewing. But it seems to be the same in all the major cities. Some of my friends are sending me videos who live in London, and it just flats just go like that,
Yes.
just insane. So
Yeah.
it seems to be like a Western problem. Um, so you came to Berlin, and you were an engineer. Now, obviously, you are head of engineering, and you're a leader of leaders now. And you only came over what 4 years ago, so a
That's right.
lot's happened in that time. So why do you think, or how did you progress up the ranks?
Hmm. Okay. I mean, to start the story, I have to tell about the switch from the fintech domain to the e-mobility sector. So I've been
Mm,
working in the fintech domain for close to 9 years before e-mobility, joining e-mobility. So things were getting too comfortable for me, and then I mean, like, you know that you touch this, it's going to work. Like you know almost everything in the domain,
yeah.
so you become much more competent there. So that's when I thought like I should move on to find a place where I can. I don't have any competency, for example, on the domain side at least, and then that gives us the thirst for more hard work and grasping knowledge, I would say. So that's the reason I was looking out for a change, and then Ubitricity came into my radar, and then one important thing is that I did my bachelor's in electrical and electronics engineering. So working in the best of both worlds, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
best thing about Ubitricity. So I joined Ubitricity just for that reason. So the challenges that it brings along with it. So like you test it with the device. You don't test just the UI, like the front end or website or something. So you test it actually with the device. So that was really fun in the beginning, and that idea really attracted me towards
Mm.
Ubitricity. So I joined Ubitricity as a senior backend developer, and that was back in 2019, October 2019. And then I was working in a Scrum team, and then as a senior backend developer working in Java. But I really wanted to expand my wings, so I used to take up front end tasks too. So that's when
Okay.
I was playing something like a full stack developer at that time. Then I was interested in DevOps too. I mean, I'm like a responsibility magnet, I would say. Like when I start something, I keep on growing my expertise. So I don't uh, just stick to what's given to me. I always try to learn something more. So to keep me always enthusiastic and motivated. So
Yeah.
that's when I was able to prove a lot to the team and to the management. So yeah, so I mean, this is not the first time I'm switching to a leadership domain. I mean, I used to lead teams before also. Like when I was in India, like I used to be a team lead in Tata Consultancy. This is a consultancy service, and then I really thought that I would keep low profile when I come to Berlin. Like I thought like
Mm.
I'll have a perfect work life balance, and
Yeah. So many
because
people say that.
yes, so
They,
you have this control, yeah. Everything
yeah.
everything works as it is, and then you know that you have the control over your time. So you don't
Mm.
have a calendar full of meetings. You don't have multiple stakeholders to deal with. You don't have to explain tech stuff to non-tech people. So you don't have to do that. You
Yeah.
just code, you finish it, you test it, you go home. It's that easy life.
Mm.
So I was thinking like let's lay low, like let's keep a low profile, and then be optimistic and cool.
Yeah.
But I think it's just not me. I mean, I used to be a lead. I used to, I had this pleasure of enabling people to deliver their best, removing obstacles, providing solutions to problem, reducing burden of decision making. That's the biggest thing that I love about being a leader. So at some point of time, I thought that maybe I should take some more responsibility and then break out of this loop of
Mm.
staying comfortable in my own domain. So
Mm.
that's when I was showing a lot of interest in the architecture, and also that's when I got promoted to being the chief architect of the team, um, and then Shell happened. So we had an acquisition phase with Shell, and there was there was actually a requirement that we should communicate with Shell about our tech team, about what we do, the processes and everything. And I had to step in, and then I did that for the team, and then I stepped in as a leader. So
Mm.
that's when I was given the position
Awesome.
of head of backend. Yes.
So I want to dig into that, but one thing you picked up on was, and I saw a debate like, how important is domain knowledge when it comes to how good an engineer is? If you're, and you will come on to hiring as well, because you obviously hire many engineers. For me, I've only really focused on technical expertise, and it seems companies focus on that. But how much of a value add is it if someone's coming in with the domain knowledge already? Um, and can it ever make up for maybe a lack of technical expertise?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, domain expertise is really important, but tech, I mean, a developer should have a deep knowledge about what they are doing. So that's what I say. A T-shaped engineer. So
Yeah,
T-shaped engineers is really deep in their expertise, and also they're spreading wings in multiple domains. Like for example, domain expertise, or taking up a product responsibility, or communicating it with non-tech people. So that should be the goal for each
yeah,
and every engineer to be T-shaped. Yeah, and then when we have profiles with domain expertise, and it's going to be a real pick. Like it's going to be a fastest pick, so that will be prioritized top. Like when we have like 10 profiles and we see one, then we are going to schedule some fast interviews with this guy.
mm,
We are going to speed up processes. That's very clear.
Okay. So anyway, coming back to when you were an engineer, um, And as I've said many, many times in this podcast, if you're going to get a lead role in any company, the best way is to get promoted internally, because
Exactly.
no one's going to hire someone who's not had lead experience. Believe me, you've got to have that, even just a little bit. So, what were you doing as an engineer to put your hand up? So, when the opportunity came, you were ready to take it, and the company trusted you to do that. So, what things did you do, and what can an engineer do right now to get themselves ready to upskill for that next step?
That's a really good question. So the first thing that I did is more involvement in the project management. So working very closely with the product managers and then product owners, for examples, and then splitting up stories into very detailed levels so that people can easily jump onto it and work on it. So that's lacking in many companies. Like we get very abstract stories and tasks and tickets. So the first thing an engineer can do is that to develop your business acumen, go out there, talk with the product managers or product owners, and help them out to improve the granularity of the stories and all the content. So if you do that, then you understand the business and also you're helping the team. So that's number one, I would say. And the second best thing is that defining deadlines to projects, defining the deadlines on a granular level, not on a bigger scale, I would say. So at least on whatever you are working as a team, you can define deadlines, you can achieve it, communicating with the team, and then make sure that you have a rollout plan and also a rollback plan. So you define that, and then you execute a project in a perfect fashion. So people get to notice you, and then they will also have the confidence in you that if you start a project, you will be able to execute it in a structured manner, and then you can assure them the success after that, and then you
Mm,
can also you have to keep up this work again and again. You have to repeat your success. Yes.
sure. So is it weird though when you actually make that jump like that day one? Because I remember back in the day when I was, obviously it's a different industry, but when I was a recruiter, and then all of a sudden it's like having a kid. Not that I've had a kid, but it's the matrix shifts, and you're sitting now on the other side of the table having, say, a one-on-one. I mean, what was that like for you?
Okay, I mean that was really tough in the beginning, like doing one-on-one with close to 5 or 6 employees all together. So that was the toughest phase of my life, I would say, as a manager.
Hmm.
So the thing is, like when you go there, this is the first time you're doing it. So when you do it, you go with a proper evidence to justify what you're going to say. Yeah. So you observe each and everybody on a very close level. Actually, an engineering manager can do it. Actually, like you can actually work very closely with the team. You can keep an eye on each and every detail, and that's exactly where the technical capability of a manager comes into play. So if you don't have that technical expertise, then you will never understand what your team is doing. Yeah, you can do a management, you can do a leadership thing, but if you don't really empathize with them, if you don't really understand what they're doing, then when you go to this one-on-one, you will be on a different level and they will be on a different level. So you can never meet in between. So that it's going to be really tough. So when I did this first one-on-one, I was really concentrating on the details. So I still see this first performance appraisal sheet that I've given the employees, like all my reporters. So it'll be like a really long paragraph in each and every rating. Like if there is a rating, then I'll be having at least like 10 lines of description beside that.
Mm.
So that's the level of detail that I was assuring the employees. Yes.
Mm. Well, and people would appreciate that as well.
Mhm.
But with empathy, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's something that I naturally struggle with in terms of, especially in the heat of everything, to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Um, if someone doesn't do something right or is slacking a bit, there might be a reason for it, and it's up to you
Mhm.
to kind of find out why. And it's that people management, that emotional intelligence that really comes into play. And the more experience they get, the more engineers and leaders in, and not just in tech, just anywhere,
Yeah.
the soft skills just important. So was this something that came naturally to you, that kind of empathy side, that EQ, I suppose we'd call it, um, or have you had to work on that?
I mean, it is based on the role that you take, I think so. I mean, if you're an architect, then I've seen a lot of architects in my life, and they've always been I mean, they've always been non-empathetic. Like they can never be humane, I would say. I don't know, like that it comes with the role, it seems like,
Mm,
to treat everybody else as incompetent. That's something each and every architect get it by the role, it seems. So if you're choosing a leadership role, then I think it will start coming to you naturally. That's the first thing I see. And also, like, this is a learning process. I totally agree. Like, the first time you fail, you don't empathize with the employees. You don't understand, like, where they are struggling. So I used to talk with my CEO. So he's Lex Hartman. So he used to be a CEO in Ubitricity. So I used to have, like, every month, a chat with him, a little chat with him. And then he used to say always, like, people don't do mistakes deliberately, Richie. So keep this in mind. Yeah, that's the advice I still keep in mind, and it has helped me really. I mean, people don't do mistakes deliberately. It's
mm,
very simple. So you keep that in mind, and then empathy comes with you, and then you make sure that you put yourself on in their shoes, and remove your expertise from it. Yeah, make sure that you are thinking in exactly the same level that they are. So you might be a domain expert, they might not be. So make sure that you think about that and then take a decision.
mm. You mentioned sort of people above you as well. I
Hmm.
feel like when you're in that management position, it's not just the people below, you got to manage upwards as well.
True.
And I think that's where most new managers feel the most pressure because they, when things go well for their team, it's their team that gets the credit. And then when things are going badly, they feel that it's all on them. So, what advice would you give to a new manager about dealing with the people above you?
Okay, I would say, like, keep the conversation going always. Don't resort to, like, just monthly one-on-ones. So whenever you feel like it, just walk into the doors of the sea level, and then just vent out whatever happens. So that's the first advice I would say. And then make sure you translate it in a way that everybody understands on that level. So you cannot expect a very deep level, or technical level information, and then you cannot interest them with that kind of information. So you make sure that you translate it to like, if you can make a kid understand what you're doing, then you're doing a good job. So that's
Mm,
what you should do. So you should make sure that you talk with them in a language that they can understand. Like, use comparisons, real life examples. For example, like, I've been comparing an incident with a Christmas light. So that's how I did it. So keep the conversation going. Try to talk in a language that they will understand, and then be transparent. And that's very, very, very important. I mean, when you're breaking things, when the team is breaking stuff. I mean, when there are incidents, when there are bugs and quality issues, then we have to be really transparent with the C level. So you give them utmost detail about, like, how it went wrong, and how we could have prevented it, and what's lacking, what needs to be done. So you give them that level of
mm.
transparency. So that's what keeps you going. Yes.
Have there had? Could you give any examples, maybe, of the times where you've really had to deal with a problem in your team and had to communicate that upwards, and maybe being a bit anxious about doing that because it's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, we did a bigger cloud migration project. Like, we migrated all our applications from data center, like a on-premise, to cloud, Google Cloud. We did that in 2021, I think so. Yeah. So when we did that, there was, like, hell lot of things breaking here and there. So it's a complete biggest migration we have ever done. We even named it Apollo mission. So that's how serious things are. So we were having a lot of issues in production, like applications going down, devices not connecting to the backend. So we had a lot of issues, but we made sure that we communicated this even before it's going to happen. So, for example, like deadlines, the whole timeline, and all the things that can be impacted. For example, so if we are migrating an edge service, which is pointing the user, so we will say that this day we might see a downtime of this 1 hour or 2 hours, something like that. So we were transparent enough to do that. And but even after that, like, there were a lot of things that went wrong.
Yeah.
And when things go wrong, it's always best to do a post-mortem analysis. That's what we did. So we did post-mortem together as a team, and then we had enough data points to convince the C level that this is something that we couldn't control. I mean, this is not completely in our radar. So we were able to do that. So collect more information, before you go to the C level, so that when they ask the question, you have something to say and not just stare blank at them.
Yeah. Yeah, data seems to be the biggest tool
Exactly.
to get anything done at sea level. But isn't that? I mean, that's a stressful situation. And I know in engineering, when there's outages or things not working, um, and I only ever really see it from the consumer side, if I'm honest. So if a big company goes down, I remember there was a famous outage last year at Facebook, and everything went down.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, what's that like for someone in your position?
First thing, we should keep calm. First, we should keep our cool. Anything can be fixed if you keep calm, because uh, stressing out or panicking around is not a good thing to do when you're doing troubleshooting. That's the first lesson for anybody who's doing troubleshooting out there. So you just keep calm and then think that it's not your issue. So if you think that it's your issue, you caused it, then you do panicking, and then nothing comes good out of it. Yeah. So first you keep cool, and then you start investigating it. That's what we did, like in those incidents. So if there are customers, make sure that you have the right people to address them. For example, customer support or operations, like the people who know the customers better than you. Like I would also suggest that every now and then the engineers should communicate with the customers directly, like to really understand their pain, to really understand the bugs and everything from their perspective. That's also good for a team. But most of the time we'll be concentrating on the finishing the product roadmap, and then delivering stuff all the time, so you will not get time to do that. So make sure that you have the right people in the right place to do that, and then you communicate with them in a language that they can understand.
Yeah.
And that's how we should keep it. So you
Mm.
always make sure that you have them when something is going wrong, so you have a team of incident response, and then we do the communication very frequently.
Absolutely. And obviously, you need a really, really good team of engineers to do that. And I know
True.
your teams at Ubitricity are very good, and you're building some very complex stuff. But you've got to hire these people. Now, this is something we both have in common. We both hire a lot of software engineers. Um, and I speak with obviously a lot of tech leaders about this, and everyone seems to have sort of different inputs. So, if you get a CV in front of you of an engineer, um, what are you looking for in the CV stage? We'll come on to interviews in a bit.
Okay. The first thing that I'm looking into is actually the expertise, like the skill set. So I'm just skimming through the CV for keywords which I'm looking for. For example, when it comes to DevOps, I'll be searching for Terraform or Kubernetes or GCP, because if this person has a totally different area of expertise, then uh, if you have time to train them, then yes, fine, all good. But if you don't have the time to train them, if you don't have the resources to train them, then you don't go with them. Yeah, it's very clear.
Yeah. How
So
much time, sorry to jump in, how much time does it actually take to train someone up on a tech stack? Say if they've used, maybe they have used Java, but they haven't used the right the sort of older frameworks. They haven't used, say, Google Cloud or AWS. Um, yeah, how long does it to actually take to train someone up on that?
I'm doing something like an experiment on that. Like right now, I've hired a .NET developer, and then I've trained them
Okay.
in Java. So it took close to 3 weeks to do that. I'm also doing it for a junior developer. So I recently hired, and I trained the junior developer for 3 weeks. So the outcome is really good, I would say. Like
Mm,
it's been like two months since they have been trained, and I can see some real good improvements down there. So they are delivering stuff on a day-to-day basis. They're working on some crucial stuff, and I mean, it's also important, like what's their previous experiences. So if it is .NET, then at least they have a development experience, and they can also relate to Java, because object-oriented programming. So they if they have the
yeah.
basics well, then it's fine. If they don't have any experience, then you might have to give it 2 more months before things catch up. But you also have to sit with them very frequently, like every month you catch up. You whenever they are doing something, you make sure that they are doing it right. Like you peer them with one more senior member in the team. That's what I did. So for people who doesn't have any experience before in Java, so you always pair them with a mentor. So if this mentor is a senior person, well and good. So that's what I did, and it's reaping some good benefits, I would say. Yes.
Mm. It's amazing because there's some companies that are like, only we're not even going to interview anyone who doesn't have this exact tech stack. And ultimately, training someone up who maybe doesn't have everything is probably quicker sometimes
I
than
lost you there. Not sure if it is my network. Can you hear me? You're back.
I'm back. I'm back.
You were saying something about some companies.
Yeah, well, some companies say, "Oh, well, we're going to have the whole tech stack. We're only going to have people who have our entire tech stack." And actually, it could be quicker to train someone up on the tech stack than just wait for the unicorn to come along. But it was interesting. I thought it would be. I thought it'd be longer to train someone up the way the way some companies go on about it.
No,
Um,
I mean back in India, like we used to train trainees directly from college, like universities, and then we give them 6 months of training. Most of the companies do that. I mean, they have a separate section of training section, and then they train the employees for six months, and then after that they are put into real projects. I mean, like with real delivery pressures, and people are able to do this for. I mean, we have been successful in doing this for more than 10 years, so it's working.
yeah. Do you get? Do you ever get people that fall off? Like, is it sink or swim? Or if you do it right, with the right CV and the right profile, it's actually all right.
I mean, we should as a leader we should take that risk. I would say. I mean, take that risk and find out like if I mean there has always been a situation like this, like where we find a candidate that's not shaping up. Then you still have the responsibility to reiterate the whole training thing. You can also try
Mm.
to find out like where this person is lacking, and where we need to give more training on this. And if it is still not possible, then it's good that both of them part ways. Yes.
Absolutely. That actually happens a lot more than I think people think as well. It's
Hmm.
all very quiet, hush hush. But I know with my industry, a lot of people think it's brutal with the cut and thrust, but with software engineering, it can happen too. If you're not cutting it, it's it's no walk in the park.
Exactly.
Um, but with your career, you have used Java for a long time, and your teams use Java now at Ubitricity. Now, I love Java because I've basically made my whole living off Java engineers and placing them. So I'm incredibly biased. But anytime I'm on LinkedIn or do a post about Java in any positive light, it always gets a few hate comments. People love to slag Java off, maybe because it's just been around for so long. But you've used it for a while. So why do you like it so much? And maybe it's time for someone to defend Java, and I'll give the torch to you.
Okay. I'm scared about all the negative comments, but let me put it from my perspective. So I've been in the industry for close to 12 years now, and I've known Java for more than 16 or 15 years. And it's a rock solid programming language, if you ask me. And it's been there for a very long time. And then being there for a very long time doesn't just mean that they're doing some patchwork to make it live, make it alive, but it also means that it is growing now and then, observing the industry trends and fixing stuff on the fly. So for example, let's take Java WE profile. Like this is actually a specification that defines how enterprise Java can look like. And then comes in the microservice architecture, and then Java was able to adapt to it very faster than any other language. For
Hmm.
example, like uh, Java was able to provide a micro profile framework. This is something like a specification too. And this contained distributed tracing, circuit breakers, and actuators and everything. So Java was able to adapt to industry very faster than any other language. And Java also has the support of Spring and frameworks like Spring, Quarkus, and these make the developers' life so easy that
Hmm.
you can fix other problems and not be stuck in this problem. Like for example, if you're writing a Kafka consumer, then when you're doing it in Golang, then it's going to take like more than 100 lines to do that. And when you're doing it in Java, it's going to be 5 properties and one file. That's it. One class with one method. That's it. So
Okay.
you have a very good matured frameworks like Spring and Quarkus, which does the job for you. So you can make use of it, and then go to live, I mean, go live very faster. And then also troubleshooting or troubleshooting is much easier and a pleasure when it comes with Java. Like we have done direct troubleshooting with production applications, and this is something that other programming languages are still maturing in, but Java has a very good platform for this, like to do debugging, remote debugging, and everything. Hot
Mm.
reloading, like whenever you change something, Java can automatically hot reload the change immediately. This happens with Quarkus. So the Quarkus, for example, is a cloud native Java application, so you can run Java applications within 60 MB of space for each application. So that's 10 times better than a Node.js application. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think there is an argument there.
Yeah. Um, Now, obviously, I'm not technical, so I'm going to try and navigate this as best as possible.
Mhm.
I understood some of the stuff you just said, but with Golang, why do people love that so much? Like, people like eulogize it, and um, I do hear some company or people say that some companies just use Golang because it's like the in thing. Do you think there's anything in that at all? Because people seem to really love it, and anytime when I talk about the Java hate comments, yeah, it's nothing vicious, but it's usually people use say Golang's better.
Yeah, sure. I mean, even I've had my hands dirty. I got my hands dirty in Golang, and it is a really rock solid programming language too, and also it is really efficient, and also like when you do the programming and then you package it, Golang is much smaller than any other package, any other application ready for production deployment. So that's where it shines, I would say. And then the speed with which the program starts, the startup times and everything, so it's really good. And also when it comes to Go routines, they have done a really good job there. So if you are starting something from the scratch, it obviously comes with its own advantage. So it's very clear. So if you're actually completely rewriting Java, then people would have done a lot of good job there. For example, Kotlin. So they are fixing some stuff that Java still has problems with. So with I would give that positive point to Golang. But when you're writing something, it is really verbose. So you have to do a lot of stuff from the base. For example, like you don't have frameworks to do things for you, so you have to do it yourself. So a
Yeah.
consumer itself will take more of your time, and you do a lot of copy paste here and there, which folks from Java don't like. Guys like me don't like copy pasting. If we see that we are copy pasting the error handling in 10 different places, we go nuts. So it's simply it's simply not good
Mm,
in my view.
mm. And then coming on to like interviewing software engineers, um, is this the sort of stuff you discuss with them? Do you expect engineers to have maybe the same views as you on programming languages, but just ways of working? Is this something discussed at all?
Yeah, I have this question, like what's your most liked and what's your least liked programming language. I do that
Mm,
all the time in the interview, but I don't want to create a clone of myself. I don't do that. I mean, it's so wrong on so many levels. When you do that, then things go really bad for you. Like if you are just cloning yourself, and if the team is just full of you, then you don't have any other opinion other than what's yours, and you don't have anyone to question that, and you don't have anyone to challenge it. So that's something that every leader should take notes on. Like they should make sure that they are not cloning themselves. So if I have a bias on something, I don't expect the developers to have the same bias, but I make sure that they are an expert in Java. Like if it is
mm,
possible, if we get senior developers in the CVs. So other than that, I don't expect any bias.
mm. Okay. Now we talked a lot about yourself and your expertise, tech leadership, your programming as well.
Mhm.
Um, it's clear that you've obviously achieved a lot in your career, and you seem to have this sort of work ethic and intensity about you. That's something that comes across. Um, where has that come from? Do you think is that something that's developed in your career, or at school were you sort of really bang on it with getting your head down, exams, that sort of stuff?
Oh. I think I was lucky enough to have good mentors. So I give it up to all the leaders who have trained me so far. So I inherit these properties from them, I would say. Like I take something, I mean, I observe them very closely, and then I take the good stuff from it. So if you are a developer out there trying to be an engineering manager, make sure that you're getting these qualities from your boss, or from your engineering leaders, and then you inculcate that quality in you.
Mhm. When you were growing up, what mentors did you have?
I mean, I had a pleasure working with some great architects, like down the line, like in India, like really cool ones, uh, who really try to motivate people with a lot of innovation. For example, like not to do the offbeaten stuff, like doing it again and again, and not thinking about something new. So I've always had this pleasure of working with people who would try something new and then risk it. Like for example, Quarkus. So this is something that I recently started developing in Ubitricity. Like I was, we started developing some microservice with Quarkus. So I had this quality inherited from some of our architects who were brave enough to experiment. So that's one good thing. And then leaders who were humane, like treating other people with empathy. So like I had my previous CTO in Ubitricity, like Adrian, and the CTO before that, Marcel. So these people are really humane leaders, and who would really understand the pain that you're going through, or the stress that you are in, and then provide solutions for that, and not just say that empty words doesn't make any sense. So they will jump into action, they will provide you solutions. So these are the leaders
Mm,
that I had luck working with.
mm. You mentioned stress. It's a stressful job. Tech is stressful. There's especially in your position, there's
Yeah.
pressure seems coming from both directions. How do you manage that? And is there any tip? Do you have sort of work life balance now? Would you say?
Now it's so bad right now.
Really?
I mean, it piles up when at some points of time. Yeah, not always. It's not going to be like stressful throughout the year. Definitely no. So anybody who wants to be a manager can uh, rest assured, you don't have to worry about it. It's going to be just a phase in your life, and then things will get better. I mean, this is something I got from the current CEO that I'm working with. So Daniel, he mentioned this, and I totally agree with him that this is something like a phase, and it is caused by some factors. So you find out those factors, you attack them, you fix this. So for example, it can be a process that is lacking. So so recently we had some incidents in production, and then I saw that there is no channelized process for the release management or change management. So so that's where you take an action on it, and then wait for some time to get things fixed on its own. Yeah, you don't think that you can expect a result tomorrow. It can never happen. It will take at least 3 weeks for a process to get mature. So you wait for that time, and then if things are breaking, just keep your cool. I've lost cool so many times, but I was lucky enough to work with leaders who helped me uh, to manage this growth pain, or teething phase, or whatever. So yes.
Mm. It must be so hard in the moment because I'm the same. Like, if I have people doing stuff for me and I see like a typo or something like that, or just a broken process, and yeah, first instinct is to just be like, "What the fuck is going on?" But actually, like we said before, no one makes a mistake on purpose.
Yes.
And what I've found as well, like when someone does make a mistake, it's because often I haven't made something clear enough, or I've made the process in a way or the workflow in a way that isn't actually that helpful, and it can create an environment for mistakes. So it's amazing how many times things lead back to the leader.
Exactly, I totally agree with you on this one. Yes.
Mm, mm,
So you make sure you find the root cause of the problem, and not blame it on the person who has committed the issue, the mistake. Yeah, that's
mm,
the key.
mm. Yeah, easier said than done sometimes, but there we go. Um,
True.
but were you always going to be a software engineer? I know you studied electrical engineering at university, but were you always going to work on that sort of technical side? You know, when you were growing up, were you someone who was tinkering with computers?
All the time, yes, yes. I was someone who was tinkering with computers, even before the university. Like I was working in assembly language with a floppy disk. That's who I was. So that was fascinating, and the reason why I chose electronics is that to dive in deeper, to get the fundamentals right before I jump into something like a programming, because programming, I would say it's a skill that you can acquire. Even kids these days can program, like even they are starting programming at age of six or
Mm,
something like that. So the world is crazy. So it's something like a skill that you can acquire. But what's very important is that you get your fundamentals right, like dive it on a deeper level to find out like what's going on behind those languages and interpreters and everything. For then you think in a different way. Like then you program considerately. Like you don't program saying that I have 2 GB of space, I'm going to exploit it, right? I mean, if you think deeper, then you know that these are
mm,
instruction sets. So you will make sure that performance is the first thing that you care
mm.
about.
Yeah, I feel like people would go sort of two sort of ways when they're at school. I mean, I never had the inclination to figure out the back end of a computer. I was more of a just about the consumer side of stuff. But it was the way IT was taught as well in the school. It was ridiculous. It was like PowerPoint and Excel. It was just a complete waste of time. But it's amazing how many people I speak to who are in your position, and they literally, for listeners of this podcast, will have sensed a pattern. They literally all say the same thing, that when they were young, they'd get hold of a computer, they'd tinker about with it, they'd want to build something, they weren't interested in just what they were seeing, they wanted to know how stuff worked.
Yeah.
um, and I think the way the brain works for people with your sort of skill set, I think honestly, for people that listen to the podcast, it's this theme that keeps coming up and up and up. And yeah, do you think that's something that was natural to you? You just had this curiosity?
Yeah, I think so. That's a tough
Yeah.
question, but I think also like what the education system in India did during 80s. I think it has gone through a good phase of development. I think 90s, in 90s, like they started teaching computers in school, even for the kids, like kids who are doing fifth grade. So
Mm.
we were actually working on programming to draw on a screen. So we were using something that's called a logo. That there was a programming language called logo, like
Yes,
logical
someone else
oriented,
mentioned that.
graphical
Yeah.
oriented, something like that. So we
Mm.
were doing something like a programming to create our art on screen. So that inculcates that curiosity in you, like to see that you type something that's text, and then the text is turning into a graphic. So that gives a curiosity for a kid, I would say. And then we also had a good programming uh, language session together with another company. The school had a good tie-up with a company who teaches programming language and everything. So we had a chance to work on programming even earlier, like when we were doing 10th grade, like we were working on programming languages. Yes.
Mm. Yeah, England. I mean, when I was at school, it really wasn't like that, and it was like, I mean, from my school, I don't know anyone who codes, which is mental if you think about it. And that's why there's such a shortage in England. And now with Brexit as well, it's really hard to get visas too. So there's like a real software engineer shortage um, in London. I think more of a shortage than in Berlin as well, because in
Yeah.
Berlin it is easier to get the visas. Um,
So I think the government should care about creating trainings, improve the skill set of the citizens. For example, like I mean, there are lots of people who are unemployed right now. You
mm,
can very well train them in programming. It's not a rocket science. You don't have to train them in expertise level. They will learn it on the job. So you just have to give them the curiosity to cling on to, and then I think they will shape up good.
yeah, yeah, there definitely needs to be a massive push in that direction, especially in England. But I think as well with the government, like obviously I'm English, so I'm more sort of well versed with this stuff. But with Brexit, obviously it was bad because of the freedom of movement, and we couldn't get great talent from the EU in. But there was an opportunity to create like a high skills visa where engineers, really senior engineers, could just come in really easily,
Hmm.
and they just haven't done that. And the UK economy, it's a weird situation now because there's like a cost of living crisis. The economy is going down, but companies still can't hire people. So it's like this: you've shrunk the labor force, but the economy's still going down. It's like a really weird like dichotomy at the moment. But
So
something in Germany that you don't really have to deal with. But how have you found like hiring engineers yourself? Do you think, I mean, in terms of people like relocating or the international talent, or do you prefer to just look in Berlin and Germany? Do you think there's enough talent for you?
there is no enough talents for us in Berlin, so that's very clear. Not even
Mm.
in Germany. So it's really tough to hire. I mean, the market is so tough that like we get close to five profiles in a month for a backend engineer position. So that's how
Mm.
bad it is. So previously, like I think 2 years before, it was not the case. Like we used to get a lot of profiles
Mhm.
organically, like we without
Yeah.
going to agencies, for example. So the condition is totally different now. And also, like with the with incoming things like remote working and everything, like all the things that COVID brought in. So now I see that a lot of developers are into remote working, and they want to improve the quality of their life. So that's not something that each and every company provides. Like some companies provide hybrid working. So maybe that's also one reason for this shortage, I would say, like people to come out of their comfort zone and apply for companies like this.
Yeah. I if I have a company that has like hybrid and like even a very small requirement to come to the office, automatically obstacles come up, and it just does shorten it, because that's the thing now with tech companies. Even in this economic downturn for engineers, uh, if you offer something, you could offer flexible working, all the benefits, all the perks, but there's 10 other companies offering exactly the same thing. Even with salaries, like it's just crept up and up and up.
Yeah.
And even in the last few months, I know there's much has been made about tech layoffs, but when it comes to engineers, I've not really seen a change at all. Which I suppose is good if you're an engineer listening to this. It shows that you're in demand. Um, but it, honestly, every year I've been in recruitment, the salaries have gone up. And last year in 2021, it was crazy. Every quarter, I sat down with my clients. Every single quarter, I think 5 quarters in a row, and they were like, "Alex, we are reviewing our salary boundaries, and we're making some changes. We're adding 5, 10K on." Literally, I had the same conversations throughout the year because it just got crazy. And what's good as well is that now the market's cooling down, but we got so far to fall when it comes to engineer hiring that I think the demand is still there, but obviously painful for companies as well who
Yeah.
want to hire.
Yeah. And I think hiring people from countries like India, it can bridge this gap very well,
Mm,
because the market out there is really really good. Like we have a lot of people working in the tech domain there, and
yeah.
the tech domain is really mature in India because it's been there for a very long time than in other countries. So yeah, I mean, we should also be flexible enough to go out there and then provide the relocation support and do the paperwork, which everybody hates. So that's one comfort zone the company should break out of to hire
Mm.
good talents from elsewhere.
Yeah. And I know we discussed this before, but it isn't actually that much hassle. It's more hassle just focusing on a location and waiting for people to come
Mhm.
along. But with relocators, they're more bought in because they're moving with their family, they're moving their livelihood. So actually, the dropout rate between contract signature and starting is far far lower in my experience. They have less of a premium on their salaries. There's more, obviously, a larger candidate pool, and also, relocation agencies these days are so good that they can take the admin away from the companies themselves. So I know sometimes people think it's a lot of hassle and they see it as like a risk, but honestly, I think that's wrong. I think
Mhm.
the opposite is true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And then in some cases, it becomes a bit more complicated. Like when there is another company who's providing a relocation bonus, for example, a signing
Mm,
bonus or something like that, then we
yeah.
lose the candidate to them. It's often the case, actually. Like many companies are providing a huge pay in terms of signing bonus or relocation bonus. Then we lose the candidate.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, most companies will cover the relocation costs, but yeah, then you get these big companies on top that are offering stupid stuff. You get a few outliers with like big tech. Like I know, like Revolut at one point just went a bit crazy with their salaries. I know Meta obviously do as well, and it just filters down, doesn't it? So you have like these massive tech companies offering stupid salaries, and it just lifts everyone else up. And people lower down the food chain. It's hard
Yeah, yeah,
because there's only so much money.
true.
But there we go. But when you do have these people in front of you, these engineers, how are you like assessing them? What are you looking for in their soft skills, but also the hard skills?
It depends on the situation that we are in as a team. For example, right now we are looking for much more quality assurance. So we are looking for engineers who concentrate more on the quality. This was not the case before.
Mm,
Uh, People who can drive stuff, because it depends. Like I told you, like it depends on the current situation of the team. So if we don't have any person in the team who can step up and drive projects, for example, or if we have grown to a size that we need to split the team into multiple squads, and each squad should have at least one tech lead, or someone who can directly drive stuff, projects and everything. So when it comes to that, then I look into those kind of profiles, like people who have experience in driving stuff, who also have the skill set to communicate to a different set of audience and not just tech, for example product managers or quality assurance engineers, so things like that. And then I also see, based on the architectural roadmap, so based on the tech roadmap, we see that there are things like event driven architecture or cloud migration process or something like that. So when we have something like this, I check for these kind of expertise in the profile, because event driven architecture is something that not every engineer has an experience in. So based on the requirements and based on the roadmap, yes.
mm, okay. And what about the soft skills? I know a lot of people think that engineers. I used to naively think that engineers were just all about the hard coding skills.
Oh yeah.
You just need to find that wizard who can make something out of nothing. But the more experienced I get, I know that's absolutely not the case. But as a hiring manager yourself, what key things are you looking for? Any red flags as well?
Oh yeah. So we have a very well defined recruitment process. So in this, the first thing I do is as a team fit, cultural fit kind of thing. So I go out there and do this half an hour interview myself directly to check if the person is a good fit for the team and the culture that we have. So in this, we have questions which covers the person's soft skills. For example, like how the person communicates a certain thing. This one thing, I mean, I always ask for any engineer who's going to join the team in the first round of interview. So I asked them to explain about microservice architecture to a person from finance or a person from HR. So
Mm,
from this, you can clearly understand like how this person is human enough, or breaking it down to a different set of audience. So I have questions curtailed just for this, and it works most of the time. I would say it has worked so far.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah, isn't that saying the sign of an intelligent person is someone who can explain complicated things simply?
Exactly, and also
Yeah.
like checking like if the person will have a conflict and how this person has resolved a conflict before. So if the person has never been in a situation with conflict, then might not be a good candidate for you, because conflict is something that developers see on a day-to-day basis. Because when there is a code review, or when there is a bug reported on the features delivered, so conflict resolution is something that's very important for a leader and for the developer. Yes.
Mm, absolutely. Yeah, there's so much these days that makes a great software engineer, and I know there's many ways of analyzing that. One thing, do you do? Where do you stand on the take-home coding challenge and the live coding when assessing a candidate's abilities?
So our coding challenges is out there in public. So we haven't even changed it to private repository. So it's open, so anybody can view our repository and find it. So what we do is something that is very practical. The thing that we do on a day-to-day basis. So we don't do fancy stuff like lead code or algorithm or data structure or anything. So I think the programming languages are mature enough to handle those stuff, but you still have to have this experience about like how the ON notations, or how the performance of a system works. But you can train them. I mean, in this you can very well train them.
Yeah.
So we check on a very basic realistic coding challenge, which can be done within 2 hours maximum. And we also check for how this person packages this application, how this person writes an API, and how the person versions it, and what's the style of unit test cases and integration test cases. We also test that because it's very
Mm.
important that we deliver with quality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we will wrap up soon. I know you're busy and the clock is ticking, but I wanted to get to know a bit about like yourself and how you view your future. So you've done a lot in your career so far, but you've still got plenty of years ahead. So yeah, what does the future hold for Richie?
I mean, it's just really tough to say. I mean, what the future holds for Richie is that I should make sure that I delegate more, like I said in the beginning. So that will improve my work life balance, I would say. So I need to find more people and train them to become engineering managers. So I'm starting it from the team internally. So I'm coaching one person to do that, and hire people from outside to do this. And once it is done, I'll concentrate more on the architecture, and then develop leadership qualities in people, so like technical leads. So I'll be more into the coaching and training going forward, I would say. So that is something for the next few years. And yeah, I mean, let's see how things go.
Mm. Do you ever have visions of like maybe like CTO or like doing your own thing?
I do that. I mean, I have a company on my own, which I do, where I play the role of engineering manager for some of the companies who are trying to set up teams. So I help them set up teams which are really affordable. I mean, for their range in
Yeah.
Europe. So I set up teams in India. So people working as freelancers from India, so that they can start a product, and then I hand over to them directly, so these companies can manage them later. So I do that. And also I develop some products myself. So I'm actually currently working on an HR management tool, and also a project management tool myself. I'm planning to release it next year, and then I'll register the company, and then take it to a different level.
You do. No wonder you're stressed.
I
You got
know.
so much going on.
That's true. And I have two daughters with me at home.
Yeah. Well, Richie, we'll wrap up there, but thank you so much for your time. Highly intelligent, relentless work ethic. It was great to speak with you and pick your brains.
Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you so much. And this is really nice to talk about something that I've gone through all these years, and I hope this might be uh, a motivation for people like engineers who want to be an engineering manager, and then all the engineering managers out there who are struggling in the topics that we discussed. This
Mm,
will be really useful for them. Thank you so much.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Building Our World podcast. Every view, stream, and download is massively appreciated. If you're new here, then please go back through the catalogue. There's some great gems from some of the brightest and the best in Berlin tech. And if you really like what you hear, then please do hit that follow and subscribe button. That's it for now, but until next time, goodbye.